The Metropolitan Transit Authority, better known as the MTA, is attempting to levy a burdensome tax on the population in the form of a subway fare increase. Citizens, hear me out. This could happen to you.
Well, let me tell you of the story of a man named Charlie on that tragic and fateful day. He put 10 cents in his pocket. His wife and family went to ride on the MTA.
But did he ever return? No, he never returned. And he said, still unlearned, what a pity. He'd be riding forever beneath the streets of Boston. He's a man who'll never return.
Charlie handed in his dime at the Kendall Square station, and he changed for Jamaica Plain. When he got there, the conductor said, "One more nickel, Charlie, get off of that train."
Well, did he ever return? No, he never returned.
What's that mean? Okay? Because what do? You At this time, I'm going to bring up somebody that's a warrior and always a member of ASPE, Greg's local, and he's always with us no matter what. And I just want him to come up and speak. He's always here for us, so come on up, please, brother. He was at the rally, and he's always with us. This is another union brother from another union, and we need to show him a little bit better love.
Over 1644 can represent. I want to tell you, like she said, you're not alone in this fight. This fight is much bigger than you think. Everybody's involved. Everybody. When I mean everybody, I mean everybody. Like she said, when you look to your left and you look to your right, you got to start putting people in. We got to start motivating people, let them know this ain't about just me, about you. It's about everybody. This thing is more than that. It's an attack on labor. Organized labor. The state of Georgia is in a consistent fight right now. They're attacking the board of education. They're attacking anything that's organized labor because they know that their time is limited in that dome. All right. They know that these deals records are definitely changing. When Georgia came in for the vote for the election, when they came in at 47.7% and they won by that 52%, they got scared because the demographic was changing. Georgia was this close to becoming a what? A blue state. So you got them on the ropes. They are afraid. And the only way that you're going to change this thing, you got to show out in numbers. We got to show out in numbers to let people know that we are for real. That this is serious. When you mess with public transportation, you messing with us. All right. So that's all I want to say, and I'll tell y'all, we in it together. Local 1640, Local 3, organized labor movement, action. United. All right.
All right, now this next gentleman here, that was a little weak for the staff, but we're going to stand on our feet and give him all the praise and the glory to him and God. Our international president, Mr. Larry Hanley.
Thank you all, and have a good night. Safe home. You know, a lot of times when I'm in the South, I have this same problem. A whole line of speakers. It happened to me in Atlanta one time before. A whole line of speakers come up, and every one of them seems to be a pastor in a Baptist church. And and you get to the point, you know, you're afraid to say a word. But I'm a bus driver, and I started driving a bus in New York City in 1978. New York. Anyone here from New York? All right. Woo! All right. Why'd you leave? You know, it's cold. It was pretty cold there last night too. So anyway, a couple of years ago, I had the very high honor of being elected international president by the delegates at our convention. And it was a time in our international union where there was a great deal of debate going on among the General Executive Board of the Union, among the local leaders all over the country and in Canada about the direction that we had to take. It was a time, though, where we saw kind of the smoke signals coming up over the hills, you know, that there was a big fight coming, but it really wasn't quite that clear. This was September of 2010. And then November of 2010, we had the elections, and the elections set a different tone across the country. And I want you to know that what is happening here in Atlanta may seem like a Georgia thing, it may seem like an Atlanta thing, but it's not. It's only the same thing that's happening to working people all across the country and in Canada. And some of the same culprits, some of the same people that are directly involved in what's happening here in Atlanta are the same people that are doing it all across the country. Shortly after I was elected president, I had to go to Phoenix because we had a company based in France that is running pieces of the transit system in Phoenix, Arizona. Private company, contracts with the city. And that company went into the city and negotiated a lower cost for the city for running the same service. And then came back to the ATU members and said, okay, now you have to take a cut in pay. And you have to do that, why? Because the city isn't giving us as much money as they used to. Well, why is that? It's because the same company that's here, Veolia, that's trying to take away your work, went in and offered the city a lower rate for our wages. And all across this country and in Canada, your brothers and sisters are confronted with the same problem. We've had 5 strikes in the last year and a half, and every one of them has involved some level of intrigue involving private companies trying to make a profit at the expense of our members. So we've been engaged. You know, I'm here in your local, and when I walked in the door, Ray Rivera, I think, said to me first, you know, you're the second international president to come here. And then we had a discussion. We recalled that, you know, in our lifetimes, there was a third, that Jimmy LaSalle was here, Warren George, and myself. Well, I'm here to tell you that, you know, where there is a fight in our local, that's where I belong. And I was there in Wisconsin, I was there in Michigan, and I want you to know that when you see me come through that door, it's probably because there's a lot of bad news. Come on, that's funny, isn't it? I'm admitting it. But I want you to know, I just met with most members of your board, all of your board members who could get off work came to a meeting just before this one. And we had a heart-to-heart discussion about the problem here and about what's causing it. And I had kind of a Rosa Parks minute with them. We talked about sacrifice, and one of your board members said, you know, we are in a position now we may have to really put our bodies on the line to fight back. Right? And I always love hearing that from leadership, because the one group that I don't like having to deal with in a local is a group of local leaders who just want to find out how they can go to court or go to an arbitrator, you know, and find a way out of it without a fight. Because in this day and age, if you're not ready to fight, you're not ready to win. So I asked around with the officers, like, what they saw as the problem. And one problem I heard here, and if you've been reading, you're in transit, you've seen me write about this, is the problem of sometimes officers and often members who do not want to volunteer their time for their union. Am I right? Let's talk for a minute, okay? Because this issue came up, and I was out in California visiting a local, and on a related topic, we were talking about how the members felt. And one group, and this is the truth, I'm not making this up. One group of members said, you know, they were sitting over on the side of the room, and they said, you know, we don't have faith in the union. Okay, and then there was another group, and, you know, we're just having a conversation like I hope we can have tonight. And another group was sitting together, and a leader in that group said, you know, we have no hope. I'm not making this up. No faith and no hope. And if you have no faith and no hope, you can't win. And that's really the sentiment that I picked up in the room. And I immediately thought about Rosa Parks because of her connection to this union. And it's not just because her act of civil disobedience was on a transit bus. It's because it was a member of this union that actually got Rosa Parks arrested. The bus driver on that bus was a member of the ATU. And the last time I was in Atlanta, I was about to speak before the ATU Black Caucus, and I mentioned this to Bill Lucy, who's the president of the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists. I said, you know, I don't know if you know this, Bill, but let me tell you this story. It was a member of our union. And he said, well, Larry, always remember, he was only enforcing the law. That's what he was doing. And as we watch the laws in Georgia being changed to make us suffer, being changed to take away every commitment that has been made to us as workers over the course of the last 50 years, I think it's worthwhile for a minute to think about, if you're thinking about what kind of sacrifice might be worth making to fight back and to stand up to that, think for a minute about Rosa Parks. Think about the courage she had to stand up, or actually to refuse to stand up, and just say, no, I'm going to take an arrest. This is 1955 in Montgomery, Alabama, a black woman who was turning her body over to the sheriff and getting arrested. That's a place, by the way, that's not where you say, well, now what's going to happen next is I'm going to go to jail. All right? If you were Rosa Parks, you didn't know what was going to happen next. And this was 5 or 6 months after Emmett Till's body was found thrown off a bridge for being black in the South. That was the crime he committed. And she put her life on the line. And I talked about this shortly thereafter. First, I talked to the members in California, right? And I told them, you know, if you have no faith in your hope, and no hope, somewhere inside of you, you have to find a thing called courage. And if you can't find courage, then you're going to sink by not having faith and hope. But I talked to a group in Chicago not long after that, a group with a lot of people from a lot of unions in it. And I told this story, and a guy came up to me and he said, you know, you don't get it. You know, Rosa Parks trained for that. She knew what she was doing. She wasn't afraid. She had gone to school and learned, you know, civil disobedience, and she knew what she was doing. And I said to him, I don't get it. Okay, let's go back over this. 1955, a black woman in the South refusing a direct order from a policeman. And you think she wasn't afraid? You know she was afraid. Now, I know there were members of our union who were afraid. You may not be afraid somebody's going to beat you up, because that's not how they do it these days, most often. But you may be afraid to give up a day that maybe you would be spending with your child, with your spouse, with your family. You may be afraid to do that. It may sound like something you don't have to do or you don't want to do. But I'm here to tell you that if we think, as members of the labor movement, that we can beat the attacks that are coming at us like a tsunami from billionaires by saying, okay, I'll help out if I get paid. It ain't going to happen. But I also want you to think for a minute, because what I said in the magazine, I hope you all read it, Rosa Parks did not do that on lost time. When she went down to get arrested, she did not say, well, I'll do it if I get paid for the time I lose from work, or I'll do it if you pay me for the time I spend in jail, right? The payment she got was standing up for her human dignity and standing up for everybody's human dignity. And so, the first piece that I said to your board, and I want you to know, I'm telling you what they told me a couple hours ago. I got a commitment from every single one of them who made it. If they weren't there, I'm getting the commitment right now, I hope. But I got a commitment from every one of them that they're going to make more personal sacrifices than they have, that they're going to participate with our international union in getting Local 732 over the finish line and making sure that we beat this law and that we win this battle. And so again, you know, I said before that when I show up at your union hall, it generally means there's some bad news. And the bad news you all know. I mean, let me make sure you've heard it from people far more eloquent than me tonight. And I know you wouldn't be here tonight if you weren't aware of it. But yes, your pension is at risk. Yes, your wages are at risk. Frankly, your dignity and the dignity of every working person in America is at risk. American Airlines, last year, with $4 billion in cash in the bank, went bankrupt. All right, this has been a trend in the airlines and in American corporations. And they do it not because they're broke, not because they can't make their payments. They do it because they want to get out of obligations. One of the biggest ones is pensions for their employees. And I just came from a meeting with the AFL-CIO where we heard from the Mine Workers Union. Now, mine workers are people who generally, by the time they're 40, and to this day, by the way, this isn't just something about the 1800s. Mine workers to this day, when they hit their 40s, tend to have lung disease. Most of them end up dying from it. And, dying from lung disease is a really bad way to go. Anybody who smokes, you ought to stop. But it's kind of like drowning over about 5 or 10 years as you die. And that's how they end their lives. Not occasionally, but in most cases. So the mine workers now are confronted by a new company that was put together by the mine owners to buy out the mining companies and then to go bankrupt. So they deliberately took over all the mining companies to go into bankruptcy for the sole purpose of denying the workers and the retirees their pensions. And by the way, according to their international president, told us this last week, the average miner's pension is about $800 a month. And this is while you're dying of lung disease. And they are trying to take away the pensions from the retirees that exist right now, in addition to wiping out the pensions of all the current mine workers. Now, what does it all mean? We are, all over the country, from Wisconsin to Michigan to New York City, where in January we had a 5-week strike. We are facing an attack by billionaires who are greedy and who want to take away our right to live in dignity, our right to have decent wages, our right to have pensions. Curtis was at a meeting that we had in Washington, I guess about 6 months ago, where we had new presidents from all over the US and Canada in training. And the president from Dayton, Ohio raised his hand and he said, listen, I want you to know that I have members who work full-time and qualify for food stamps, and they qualify for school lunch and other social services, even though they work full-time. Now, anyone who's old enough to remember Ronald Reagan, when he went out and he attacked what he called welfare mothers, right? The argument then was about people who didn't want to work, who wanted to live off society and not work. Now the attack is on people who work every day. And this president from Dayton told us his story about his members who work every single day and qualify for social services. And I asked the presidents in the room, I wasn't stunned, but I was deep in thought about this one. I said, wow, that's a hell of a thing. I said, how many of you, asking all these new presidents, how many of you have any members that are in that situation? And every single one of them, except the Canadian presidents, raised their hand. This is in a unionized environment in the United States of America. We're still, I think, one of the richest countries on the earth. A country that has money to blow up caves in Afghanistan and have wars with the Flintstones anytime they pop their head out of a cave. I mean, that's really how bad it is. And yet, our working people are again becoming our working poor. That's where America was, by the way, when Dr. King and Rosa Parks led the battle for civil rights. That's where a lot of America was, and that's where a lot of America has returned. So the fight you have in Atlanta is the same fight we're suffering with all over the country. But here's the piece of good news about when I walk out of that door tonight, and I mean this, I wouldn't say it if I didn't, is I have a sense from you in this room, and it started when I met with your officers earlier, that you're ready to stand up and fight back. I just can't believe that that Jim Callahan did that to all of you in the last few months. It's pretty amazing. But I want you to know this. Our executive board, your vice presidents like Ray Rivera, there are 18 of them, working with us, have been actively trying to build what you're doing here in Atlanta for the last 2 years. We understand 4 words that Dr. King said in 1963 that really sum it all up. And those 4 words are, we cannot walk alone. And all across the country, we have local unions that are building coalitions, working with the public, communicating with their riders. We have about 120,000 active members in the states. We have more members, but they're in Canada and they're retirees and so forth. But we have 10 million people riding our buses and trains all over this country and in Canada. And if we can organize those riders in a common cause with us, that's how we win. And I am deeply impressed, first, with the fact that your local is so deeply engaged in doing that kind of organizing. That is how you turn around a city, that is how you turn around a country, and frankly, I think that's how you can turn around this whole world. You have begun the fight, and I want you to know, on behalf of Ray Rivera and 17 other international vice presidents who are on our board, that this international union will stand behind you every step of the way and walk with you in that process. So, thank you. So Curtis, some of our staff is here now. As I told you earlier, Curtis and board, in May, we will bring our general executive board meeting right here to Atlanta so that every one of our vice presidents will be part of this. We will continue to work with you and our other allies here in Georgia. But our entire leadership is going to come here to Atlanta in May, and not just to watch what you're doing, but to help you do it and to make sure that, you know, Atlanta, you have the largest ATU local in the South. You know that, right? And I know how hard that is in a right-to-work state. I know how hard it is to keep your membership together. And I also know the challenge you face. So what I'm saying to you is, and please, by the way, you know, preaching the gospel in church is easy, right? But we got to take the gospel outside of here. And we have a lot of more members we got to talk to, right? Okay, and we have some people who have not yet become members that we have to talk to. You need to do that. I can make any speech I want. I can sit in Washington and write memos, but if you don't do it here, we can't win. So we will do our job, and we will do it to the greatest extent possible to make sure that you win. But the victory must be yours, and it must be because you do the hard work. So again, we'll have our board back here in May. Our staff will be here continuously to help. And I want you to know, each of you to know, and please take this word back to all our other members on the property. Right? Your international union is here with you and walks with you and will stand with you. Thank you.
Here we are in Atlanta, Georgia, in 2013, still striving for civil rights. We're talking about taking us back and privatizing a public transportation system that the people of Fulton, DeKalb paid for 30 years. We won't take it. No justice. And we're going to get justice. Because we will, if we have to, like the people of the civil rights movement, for 385 some odd days, they really marched, walked to get to where they had to go to make sure that justice was done. We're here today to say to our legislators in there and to MARTA that we will not allow MARTA to be privatized. We have a collective bargaining agreement that we want honored. We believe in quality employment for our employees of MARTA because they give good service to the citizens of these counties. We have with us today some of our coalition partners who will talk about why it's important, not only from a civil rights issue, but from an economic justice issue. Right. We intend to make sure that our investment, and believe me, we have invested in MARTA, is protected. You'll hear what they're trying to do with the change of the board structure and other things with these bills. But I'm just here to give you a word from my leader, Dr. Joseph Lowry. He told me just on the cell phone a few moments ago that he stands with you and that we will not allow MARTA to be ravished. So our coalition partners are going to come up and tell you how they support you. But first, we're going to hear from the people who have been working with the employees of MARTA. We have the International Vice President, President Larry Haney from the Transit Union. And we have Mr. Curtis Howard, President of the local Transit Union. Let's hear it from them.
ATU, fired up! Well, I just want to speak on behalf. I don't want to take much time. I think our international president can deliver the message better than I can, but I want to say this is the people's system. For 30-something years, the DeKalb, Fulton, and the city of Atlanta have invested. Yes, sir. And we have given all we have as workers to put our time and resources to make sure that our children, the community, the disability groups, and everybody else move safely through this city. And we're going to stand up and we ain't going to take it no more. President Larry Hanley, y'all, for the ATU.
Thank you. Thank you, Curtis. Thank you, everybody. You know, all across not only the country, but all across the world, companies like Veolia are going around and spreading their influence and using it to get politicians to privatize public systems and public properties. And all across the country, I can tell you what that means. It means in Chicago when they privatized parking meters that the prices went up for the public. It means all across the country in every transit system. In Nassau County in New York, where Veolia was successful in privatizing the transit system, what it meant is 60% cuts in service and increases in the fare. That's what the people in Atlanta have to look forward to if, in fact, they get away with passing this bill and then imposing privatization on the people of Atlanta. So we want you to know on behalf of our 200,000 members throughout the country and Canada that we stand with you in Atlanta. We stand side by side with not only our members, but with all the people who ride the system here and all the people who should be riding the system here in Atlanta. I'm sorry, you can't hear me? Is that better? Yeah. Sorry, they gave me a short mic. So, I want you to know on behalf of all of our members in the U.S. and Canada that Atlanta will be where we make our stand. It's the cradle of the civil rights movement. They name streets in Atlanta after civil rights leaders, and then they turn around and create laws to strip people of their civil rights. There's something wrong with that. And we intend to make this not only an issue in Atlanta and throughout the state of Georgia, but also an issue all over the country, because this is an issue of what is happening to America's workers. And it's about how Americans' workers are losing all of our rights, losing our wages and our pensions. So we want you to know, as we go forward, that our international union will be here working again, not only with our members, but with the members of the community to make sure that we win when this bill comes up, and we keep winning, and we're going to convert this system into one that everybody in Atlanta can be proud of. I thank you all for coming today, and thank Curtis and all the officers of 732 for their great leadership.
Yes, sir.
And also, that's right.
Thank you.
And also all our coalition partners, without whom we would have no fight. Thank you all.
Fired up!
Ready to go.
Fired up!
Ready to go.
All right. We have another partner who talks about the environment a lot, because MARTA's system provides for protection of the environment and our health. Let's welcome Miss Amanda here from the Women's Actions for New Directions 1.
Thank you. I don't know about you, but I am sick and tired of our state legislators bowing down to every corporate interest that walks down in these halls. So we've been down here working with our legislators for 2 weeks, and it doesn't matter whether it's Medicaid, workers' rights, and now public transportation. This is a war that is being waged on workers. And it is now time to stand up to the legislators to remember that we, the taxpayer, are paying for their job to represent the voice of the people. Juan stands with you, and we want to keep MARTA public.
Now, for those who don't know specifically what these terrible pieces of legislation will do, here's a young lady that I worked with on transit for a long time, Miss Ashley Robbins for Georgians for Better Transit.
For too long, our state has told us that we're not good enough, that while they'll come to our city and they'll ride our bus, but they won't pay into our system, and they're sitting here paying Greta, supporting Greta without supporting MARTA, which moves this entire region. So we're here to say that we're not going to stand up for it anymore, that we're taking it back, that this is our system, and they can't tell us how it should be run. There are components of this bill that would cost potentially MARTA $70 million in federal funding. So not only are they taking our local money and telling us how to spend it, they're taking our federal money that we get as a right and taking it away from us. Beyond that, they're looking to give it to outside companies. So they're taking it out of our region and giving it to foreign companies.
No.
So are we going to stand for that? No. Are we going to take our system back?
Yes.
It's our system, and we have the right to this. We have transportation as a human right. MARTA is our right as Atlanta residents who paid for the system for 40 years. It is our system. So stand with us, and we will grow this coalition, and we will take our state back.
All right. There are two gentlemen that I'm going to bring up next. One will speak first and the other one will come up. But I talked about, the lady Rosa Parks that sat down on the bus. She was a member of this organization that has been fighting for our civil rights. And I have two gentlemen that are going to come up and tell about their support of you and how we're going to protect MARTA. First, we have Dr. Quincy Harris from the Georgia State Conference NAACP. And that big battle warrior out in DeKalb County, Mr. John
Evans. I want to say greetings to everyone. And first of all, I want to let you know that the NAACP is 100+1% behind the unions. We've been there since 1909, and we're going to stay there with you forever and evermore. First of all, I like to put this in perspective, that we have American backstabbers, and these backstabbers smile in your face and stabbing you in the back. We're paying taxes, and we're not getting the proper representation, which is necessary for us to live a life. So, first of all, that whole phenomenon of this backstabbing is really a mental subnormality. All right? That's the first thing that shows the signs and symptoms of a social schizophrenic. And what I mean by this, is that on one hand, they say they're going to respect and they're going to represent you. But on the other end, they're killing you. That don't make sense to me. Another point, they build their whole phenomenon or their thinking or their paradigm on assumptions, gumptions, and hypotheticals. And what I mean by that, not on fact. If they realize the harm that they're bringing to this community when they try to privatize and also sell out the MARTA to a French organization, Viola, at some point, we got to say, we fed up, we ain't taking no more, because we're going to vote you out the door. And you know what? And the other thing, too, if you can justify slavery, you can justify anything. So I ain't even going to think about what they're talking about, and Mr. Jacobs want to tell me that, oh, yeah, by the way, we're going to save money, we're going to do this. But they don't even have the right proper information from KPMG who did the data. So they don't even know how much money is being saved. So they're lying to us, basically. Right. So again, we have to fight against this un-American act of trying to destroy our lives. Right. And, you know, and the last point, remember the lady, the 87-year-old woman that died because of policy and we can't save your life? Here we are. They're trying to kill MARTA. They're trying to kill the American system that's having a heart attack. And they're telling us, don't get involved. Because that's not what you're supposed to do. Let the folks in this office do that for you. But I'm saying, no, we got to stand up, and get involved. You got to vote. You got to write your congressman. You got to join the union. And you got to join the NAACP.
How are you doing? Listen, if you don't think this is Reconstruction, you're not thinking too well. They've got us running and ripping, and we've got to change our course. We've got to change it. We can't keep doing what we're doing now and not following up. Some of us got to go to jail. We got to demonstrate, don't you think? We got to change what we do here. We cannot keep doing the same thing. Now, if you don't think this is serious, you know what's happening in the cab. They're taking our voting rights. They got it in 40 states where they have similar legislation. And all that does is just simply erode the voting process. We can't afford none of it. It's tough, and we're going to have to get tough. We're going to have to do things a little different. Now, when we're ready to fill up the jails, I'm ready. We got to do it. Now, the reason I know all of this, you know, I used to be on the MARTA board. I've heard this kind of stuff before. We killed it then, and we're going to have to kill it now. So we want you to stay fired up. Fired up. Ready to go. Fired up. Ready to go. Fired up. Ready to go. All right, we're going to have to be ready to go. Thank you.
Senator Ronald Ramsey from out in DeKalb County. Followed by Senator Steve Henson. Followed by none other than that rebel rouser, Senator Vincent
Fox. Brothers and sisters, good afternoon. My name is Ron Ramsey. I'm your state senator in District 43. Welcome to your state capital. This is your government, and you have a right to say how it works. We are here in battle. It is a war. People quickly forget that organized labor, working men and women built the infrastructure of this nation. But we've forgotten that. We fought for the rights, we gained the privileges, and some of us forgot about the struggle. We were able to get our weekends, we were able to get our vacations, we were able to get our house with 2-car garages, we were able to get the benefits, and we became comatose. We forgot about the struggle, and they knew we became comatose. That's why they're trying to do what they're trying to do right now. So I'm proud to stand here today with your leadership, Charlie Freeman of the AFL-CIO, your president, Curtis Howard, and my warriors in the Senate, my Democratic leader, Steve Henson, and our warrior, Vincent Ford. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in war, and we are going to win. Win! We are going to win. Win, 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 win. Thank you, man.
We wonder, why do they worry so much about you earning a living, a decent living? That's because they're afraid it might spread to the jobs that they're running, where they're not paying people a decent wage, taking care of their employees. It's not right, and you need to stand up and fight for it. The labor movement has done too much, come too far to step back and sit in the back seat anymore. So thank you. Thank you to ATU. Thank you to your national president coming down and your business manager and all of the labor leaders, Dewey and the Labor Council and all of them. You know, we need their help every day up here at the Capitol. They support us when we work on bills. They support us in our campaign, some of it with money that you give to them, and we appreciate you. I want you to know it's a team effort. And the Democratic team of Georgia and every 18 Democratic members of the state Senate are on your side and fighting for you. And no one in the Georgia Senate is fighting harder for Atlanta's own, Fulton County's own, Vincent Ford. Yeah. So when he comes up here and he tells you that he's been working day and night for you, you know he means it. And when he tells you he's going to make sure we're there tomorrow working for you, you know he means it. So I'm going to welcome a champion of the ATU, champion of workers in this state, Vincent Ford. Vincent.
All right.
Ready to go! Ready to go! Ready to go! Ready to go! Fired up! All right.
Ready to go!
All right, now I know I'm with the greatest union in the world, ATU. Give yourself a round of applause. Who moved this city? We moved this city. Who moved this city? We moved this city. Who moved this city? We moved this city. I want to ask you one more time, who moved this city? We moved this city. All right.
All right.
Woo, y'all fired up. You got me fired up. All right. Thank you for those kind words, Leader Henson, the working man's best friend here at the state capitol. Right. We appreciate you and love you for what you do to watch out for working people. Brother Hanley, Brother Howard, friends of labor members of the ATU, I appreciate you being here. I've been hanging out with you a lot lately. And now we're here together at the scene of the crime. I call it the scene of the crime because the people that want to take away your standard of living are doing it right here. Yeah. Mike Jacobs, he ought to be here. He ought to be here to answer to the people. But he ain't going to be here. He's going to throw a rock and hide his hand. But tomorrow morning, he won't come to us. We'll come to him. There you go. Something got messed up. Something got messed up. When it got to the point where folk making a decent wage is a problem. Something got messed up. When it got to the point of having health benefits was a problem. And some of us even buy into it. Like good wages is a crime. Taking another man's food off his table is a crime. And that's what they want to do. And that's why I'm glad that you're here. And I hope you don't leave after the rally. I hope you go into the Capitol. I hope you go in the legislative office building. And I hope you go up to the second floor and tell them, leave us alone. Keep your hands off my wages. Keep your hands off my benefits. Keep your hands, sure enough, off my pension. Because it's the wrong thing to do. You know,
You know, and y'all need to be here, not just today, you need to be here for the rest of the session.
That's right.
Because things sure enough get sneaky around here, Brother Fan. That's right, March Madness. They tell so many lies and do so many sneaky things. Please be here. But I'm glad that you're here. This is the best day I've had this session. I feel good. I feel good. So I'm going to end by asking you my age-old question. Are you ready to fight?
Fight.
I don't think Nathan Deal heard you. Are you ready to fight?
Yes!
I don't think Mike Jacobs, that so-and-so, I don't think he heard you. Are you ready to fight?
Yes!
All right, are you ready to fight? Yes! Let's go.
All right. We have the new president of the Atlanta Labor Council here, Mr. Dewey McClain.
All right, brothers and sisters, what do y'all think? Who moved this city? We moved this city. Who moved this city? We moved this city. Who moved this town? We moved this town. Who moved this city? We moved this city. All right, that's what I want to hear. Greta doesn't move this city. Cobb County doesn't move this city. Gwinnett doesn't move this city. This place doesn't move this city. Who moved this city? We moved this city. Who moved it? We moved it. MARTA moves it. ATU moves it. And what we've got to do is just make sure one thing, that they know who moved this city. I know who moved this city. You know who moved this city. The Republicans in this building don't know who moved this city. Many of the Democrats know who moved this city, but some of them may not know who moved this city. And what we've got to do is stick together. We need our community. We need all our partners. And I'm glad to see people's agendas here. I'm glad to see stand up here because they're in the community. And what we've got to do, and on behalf of the Atlanta North Georgia Labor Council, we're going to do everything we can do. All of our affiliates, all of them are here. I saw UFCW here. I saw the Teamsters here. So all of us got to band together. Because attack on one of y'all is attack on us. Because again, all they doing is looking. All they doing is waiting. And what we've got to do is make sure. So again, on behalf of the Atlanta North Georgia Labor Council, I want to know who moved this city? We moved this city. Who moved this city? We moved this city. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Who are we? ATU. Who are we?
All right, ATU.
Who are we? ATU. All right.
All right. You know it takes the ladies' touch to make it happen, right? And we have one of the greatest organizers here in Atlanta, Georgia Stand Up's Director, Ms. Deborah Scott.
The people united will never be defeated. 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 I bring you greetings on behalf of Stand Up. Rosa Parks sat down so we can stand up. Rosa Parks sat down so we can stand up. Rosa Parks sat down so we can stand up. We want to thank you for coming out and standing up for your rights. We want to let you know that Stand Up is here with you to stand with you every step of the way. So if we have to cough, 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 flu, flu, if we have to block this city, we will do that. Okay? The civil rights movement in Atlanta, Georgia has begun. The civil rights movement in Atlanta has begun. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
I am Honeydew Mariko. I'm also a nonprofit organization for and I also advocate the disabled and the elderly. And I'm currently riding with MARTA Transit. So doing this to us and for us to find out like this, I feel is not customer oriented. You're messing with the livelihood of various different individuals, such as people who have to be at dialysis. I'm disabled, and I thank you, Jesus, that MARTA even comes to my home to help me. But for you to just take something, and the human rights of people just take away rides without letting people know, I feel is totally it has me discombobulated. That's what I can say.
So tell me about human rights. Why is it such an important issue here in Atlanta? Why are we still discussing giving our MARTA system to a French company to take the profits out of Atlanta? Is that denying the civil rights of people who live here?
I would say so. I mean, for one, why do you provide a service? I mean, you give a service to individuals that are disabled, elderly, or, they can't do for themselves. You have the program for them, and then you take it away, and it's just, I feel it's not customer oriented. That's how you're taking it away. And when you speak of human rights, yeah, like I said, it's for a lot of people who are worse off than me. I have a crushed ankle, and I need you guys to come and get me. But how I'm finding out, that I might not be able to get to, to school or whatever I got to do or whatnot, it's just wrong. And I feel that how I've been told about it is why I came down here to help.
And I see you're holding the
I'm
card.
holding them up.
What are you going to do with that card?
Well, I tell the people who are I tell individuals who are disabled and elderly, it's called Help Me Help You. If you don't speak out and you don't say anything, nothing gets done, and that's why we'll all be walking around looking like a deer caught in headlights.
And you want people to sign this?
Sign it, read it, and sign it. You got to read and sign.
Take the bottom off and send it to our state legislator.
And we'll send it to the state legislature, and I'll do it for you if I have to.
Okay,
That's all
great,
right.
thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Paul McLennan, and I'm a retired member of Local 732, 30 years member.
Tell us why the retirees are such an important part of this coalition, and that you're also working with the disability community.
Retirees are an important part of this coalition because their lives are going to be affected dramatically if the 401k pension plan is introduced instead of what we have now. Because as long as people are not paying into the pension, that's going to affect the rest of us down the road.
So tell us about the history that you know, that MARTA outsourced, privatized mobility to a company, and they took it back because it was so incompetently run. So are we repeating history here, bad history?
There's an example in Atlanta already, and actually there's a couple examples. One is Dave Transportation, which in the 90s was contracted out, and the service was so bad it had to be brought back. Another example is Atlanta Water and Sewer, which was also contracted out by the mayor and the city, and that was also a debacle and had to be taken back.
And tell us why the passengers are part of this coalition, why that's important as far as the success of getting this privatized bill stopped in the state Senate, and also to stop these jobs from going overseas. Why is it important that the passengers and these other community groups are involved with the ATU?
It's essential because the union cannot do it alone, and without the support of the community, we won't be able to build the sort of human rights and civil rights movement that we need to win this battle.
What's the significance of the international president being here in Atlanta?
It shows how serious the problem is that we're dealing with here, that the international cares enough to come down and represent and fight for us. We really appreciate it.